Okay, my friends, here we have a Vinotemp wine cooler. It's only a few years old, but it's not keeping temperature. It's 76 degrees in there. Okay, it's been running overnight. I brought it into my shop because I may have to do some seal system work. I didn't want to do any welding or soldering in the customer's home because this is an R600A unit. That's butane, that's flammable. So what I did was I went out and I bought this is a charging scale. Even though I have a charging scale for the tanks, this one comes with the 600A. Comes with the hose. You put the can on top of here and you have a measuring ability here, and this thing takes 1.96 ounces of R600A. Now I was on the job the other day. I did put in a little bit of gas, but I don't know how much gas I put in because I didn't have a scale. So I figured, you know what, let's not waste any time here. And let's pull it into the shop and see what we can do, because if it doesn't have a freon issue, then it's going to be an electronic issue. Fans are running. We're going to have to take it apart. I've never worked on one of these before, so you can follow along with me if you want. Also, another thing I want to note here is you can see a gap. You see that gap between the door seal and the cabinet? Now the customer put these stick-on rubber seals on the door, and I took them off because I want to see if I can fix this. You see, this door seal is not in right, but it's a push-in, so we want to try to fix that, but that's not going to help much because the door is warped. And I got an estimate on a new door in case the customer wants it, but right here, push in, see, something definitely wrong. Now here's another one of those sticky door seals or whatever. I don't know where they got this stuff from. Never seen it before, but it's probably one of those universal door gaskets. I don't know. We're going to try to fix the door. Now we could take it off and maybe bend it because it's warped, but with the glass in there, I'd be a little hesitant doing that. So what I wanted, you can actually see, what I would want to do is just get a new door. Look at that gap. Look. Poor design, man. Got to push that so that the door is warped. So that's another thing, but the main thing we're going to do right now is, since this is a 600A unit, we don't have to use a recovery system. We can just vent this out right into the air. So I'm going to open up the garage door and shut it off and release whatever refrigerant is in there. We'll pull a vacuum on it, and then I'm going to weigh the exact amount of gas in. Okay, so I'm opening up the valve and it's in the vacuum. So the next thing to do would be I was going to just ventilate it outside, but there's no pressure in there. So now, look how tiny this discharge line is. I think it looks like it might be 1/16 of an inch. This is a process port. This is the low side. I don't think there is a high side port on here. So this is not going to be simple. Yeah. The high side line, 1/16 of an inch diameter. I don't have any tubing. I'll even match that. Look at how small that dryer is. All right, so what we'll do next is we'll make sure there's no gas and we'll pull a vacuum on it with a pump just to make sure before we charge it up. Okay, so this thing's been sitting for a couple of hours. It's still in the vacuum. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. I don't see how it could have a leak, but maybe it's got a leak on the high side. So I'm starting to take the shelves out so I can get to that back panel in the wall. And to take these shelves out, this is how you do it. You have a little switch here, you push that up, and the other side you push down on it. And then you just pull this out like that. So that's a lot of shelves. So let me get these all out, and then we'll start taking the panel apart. Okay, as you can see, all the shelves are out. And now the next project is to take this panel off the back so we can see what's back there. Okay, let's pull this out. Okay, it's got some wires here, so we're going to take this off now. It should drop down. Okay, these are your fans. Okay, good. There's a disconnect here. One evaporator coil. I don't see any oil. Of course, this is R600. I'm not sure if it reacts the same as 134A, but here's your cap tube coming into your evaporator, and this thing is in a vacuum. I don't see any valves here. Looks like a little accumulator there. Evaporator is aluminum. What's over here? Some wires. Okay, there's a sensor right there. Okay. Let's do that for now. Next thing we need to do is, if this thing's in a vacuum and it's not plugged, that means the freon's leaked out. And we need to find out where. If it's restricted, it would be plugged up, so we could unsweat this capillary tube here. All right, you can unsweat it. Don't know how we're going to do that, because if there's freon, if there's a refrigerant in there and it's R600, that's flammable. I do see a little oxidation here. So, you know what we'll do? Let's pressurize it with nitrogen and see if we can pick anything up. Okay, so we got almost 100 pounds. I'm going to close this off. They've got some kind of a sleeve on here to protect the joint, aluminum to copper. I could maybe cut that off or get a heat gun, but this is all, it's all plastic. I mean, it's just, all right. Let's see. Let's let it sit. See if the pressure goes down. It's 100 pounds pressure. And like I said, I was there in the house a week or so ago and put that tap valve on there. It was in a vacuum, and I put gas in it. So now I'm thinking, okay, maybe it was plugged. So I think the only way, safe way to check this is to open up the line. So we could put a shield over here so we don't melt anything, but if it's going to be plugged up, it's going to be plugged up in here somewhere. So we can have to be careful because we're working with butane. All right, let's let that sit for a while, and then we'll come back to it and see what we can find out. In the meantime, you can be thinking about what it could be and drop me a line if you know what it is. See you later. Okay, we let this machine sit there overnight and at 100 pounds pressure on the high side, and it's still 100 pounds, so I don't see how it would have a leak. Okay, so I've checked all the joints for leaks. It still has 100 pounds pressure in the system. It hasn't gone anywhere. Yet, when I was there last week, before I brought the machine into the shop, it was in the vacuum, and I put some butane in there. I was afraid that I may have put too much in there, and that's the reason why I bought this scale. But I'm not getting any indication that there's any freon in the system. So the next thing to do would be to maybe take the nitrogen out, pressurize it with butane, and see if we can find the leak that way. So we'll keep trying. Okay, so as I said before, we got 100 pounds pressure. We're on the low side here, and I'm not picking up any leaks, any bubbles at least anyway. So I want to know if there's anything in the system. I'm going to cut this capillary tube right here at the dryer because I don't have a dryer like this. I could always pull this out and re-sweat it. So let's see what happens. I mean, there's 100 pounds pressure in there. There's got to be something that's going to come out. Yeah, so it's coming through the dryer. It's coming through the cap tube. That's telling me there's no restriction. And yet we put gas in it and there's no gas in it now, so we have to find the leak. Now I noticed there's a condenser in here, of course. It could be in there. And what we'll do now is I just want to make sure the system is empty, and then we'll, like I said, once it's empty we can unsweat this. Oil. Okay, let's let that drain out, and then we'll take the next step. Okay, so I checked online to see if there was any 1/8 inch access ports, process ports, and I couldn't find anything. So what I have this piece of 1/8 tubing here that came out of the switching valves for the 424 wine coolers. I can use this as a spacer. This will fit inside the 1/4 inch, and then I could, you know, solder that onto there, and also on this side, so we don't have a really big gap. So we'll use a regular dryer that I have, and we'll use these as spacers to get so I can have a valve on the high side, so I can look at the high side pressure. All right, let's get started on that. All right, they don't give you much room to work here. That looks like we can get that out. All right, gives me a little more room to work with. I'm going to cut this. That is the smallest dryer I have ever seen. Oh my gosh, what's the world coming to? Okay, we'll sand this down. We'll swage this out so that fits over there, and we'll put our dryer on. Okay, so I'm going to use this dryer here. It's not the dryers I prefer, but we'll make it work. These things are only about 40 thousandths inch wall thickness. Most of the American dryers that I use are 80 thousandths, so you can bend them, and that's going to go on like that. And like I say, we'll use this as a spacer to take up the difference in 1/8, 1/4 inch. And then we'll wrap this around, and we'll go in there, and that should be all right. Okay, here's what's next. I just sanded this high side line down here, condenser line, and cut off the tips on this filter dryer. Now I'm going to remove the Schrader valve so it doesn't melt. And then also here, cap tube. Unwind this a little bit. And also put a piece of aluminum here so the heat doesn't melt that plastic. That's a little reservoir for the condensate water. I don't want to melt that. So let's sand this down. What you want to do is you want to push this cap tube in to the dryer about 1 inch, and if it's possible, have it pointing downward so the solder doesn't flow up. Now this is going to have to be recut because I can't see. I'm just trying to map this out. So we're going to put this on here like this. I thought I was going to need a piece of 1/8 inch tubing to step this down. I probably could. I don't have a tool to open this up to fit on there. This is all metric. So gonna make do with what we have, but we're gonna put this on like this. And then once we get that soldered, actually point it down like that. That would be best. And then we could run this in that way. Alright, so let's get our equipment set up. Okay, so I've got this tip cleaning tool here. Different sizes here. I don't know what the idea is of this capillary tube. Trying to get information on this product is very difficult. And even though the owner was able to download a service manual, it's all in Chinese. And the pictures are not very clear. So I'm going to cut the tip off of this. Man, that's really small. Let me get a light. All right. It would help if I knew what the ID was. Let's just see if we can get 022. Okay, I got 22 thousandths in there. I do see a little hole there. All right, let's see if this helps. Yeah, I can see it's open now. So like I said, this was a 22 thousandths. Okay, what's the next size up? Next size is 25 thousandths. I can't see what I'm doing. Can't get a 25 in there, but I can see. I know you can't, but I can. I can see that it's not clogged. It's not pinched. So we'll solder this into there. Let's do this side first. Since this is copper, I'm going to try maybe using my number 3 tip. Can't see that well. Looks like we got it, but we'll check it. Alright, so now that's hot. Okay. All right, we'll let that cool down. We'll put the Schrader valve back in, pressurize it with nitrogen, and check our joints. So since I don't have a 1/4 inch access T, what I can do here is I can remove this valve, just solder the hole, and then pull out this process tube here. Don't know if that doesn't, this looks like it's a 1/4 inch. This looks like 3/16. I don't have a 3/16 access port. So I'm gonna have to figure out how we're gonna do this. I do have a piece of tubing. Could use this, but yeah, it looks like the same size, 1/8. So we could take one of our 1/4 inch and put that on like that. Alright, so let's put our Schrader valve in. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Alright, this is going to go in here like this. Okay, open up our nitrogen tank. Now we got our high side gauge hooked up to this. Oh, got a leak there. Got a leak there. Okay, let's try it again. Got 150 pounds pressure. Don't hear anything. Check with the bubbles. Up, you see that? Can you see that little bubble there? That's a leak. I'm telling you, these little tiny lines, very difficult to fix. Okay, I switched to a number 5 tip. I'm going to try a different approach here. That looks good. All right. You know, we know this thing has a leak. Finding leaks is an art. Got to tell you, it's an art. Because there's many methods of finding leaks. I use my ears, I use my eyes, I use soap bubbles, I use leak detectors, I use ultrasound. And In some cases, you just can't find the leak. I listen. Sometimes you can hear it. So, my service manager, Ernesto, said to me to just change the evaporator coil and the heat exchanger. But how do you change the heat exchanger when it goes through the wall? There's no channel in the back. It goes through the wall. So he told me what he did was he drilled a hole through the back and went down and did it that way. I'd rather not do that because this is a fairly new machine. Unfortunately, there's no warranty on it. The warranty's up. It'd be a shame to. However, what I could do is I could run the heat exchanger down behind this wall, down here into the compressor area, and that would be okay. So maybe what we might have to do here is order a new heat exchanger. But before we do that, I'm going to try pressurizing with butane and see if we can find the leak that way. All right, so stand by. Here's where the heat exchanger comes out of the cabinet. So it goes behind the wall. So like I said, we could order a new heat exchanger, run it down through the inside, come out right over here, and hook it in that way. We'll see. I'm still going to try to find the leak first. Okay, drained all the nitrogen out. We secured the filter dryer. It's nice and won't vibrate or anything like that. We're going to let this thing run and do a sweep charge and let it suck out all the air, and then we're going to put 1.96 ounces of butane in there and see if this system works. I don't see why it wouldn't, but I did put gas in this thing before and it didn't. And when I got it into the shop, it was empty. So go figure. Gotta have a leak, right? Completely drained. Got a good compressor in there. So it's 29 inches of mercury vacuum. I hear some gurgling noises in there. I'm going to let this run for a while in the sweep charge, and just to make sure it sucks everything out. Then we'll come back, we'll put the 1.96 ounces in there, and we'll see if this thing starts to work. And then we'll go from there. Okay, this machine has been running now for almost an hour with the discharge line open to suck out any air or anything in the system. It's at a 29-inch vacuum. I'm not getting any pressure out of the high side. I just disconnected the hose. But this is the strangest thing. I hear gurgling noises in there in the evaporator. Yeah, I hear it gurgling. Now, how could there be gurgling if there's no refrigerant in there? That's a puzzle. And it's very strange. There's no pressure. So I'm going to let this run overnight. I mean, I can hear it from here. You probably can't hear it, but you know what? I know on a Sub-Zero, when they're low on Freon, you can hear the Freon running through the evaporator. It makes this gurgling noise. That's what I hear when it's low on refrigerant. So let's let it run and see if maybe if it is pulling anything out of there, but it's got to be completely empty before we put any refrigerant in there. Okay, so we'll get back. Okay, here's an update. This morning I came in, let it run overnight. This morning I came in. The low side pressure was at 25 inches in the vacuum. And when I left last night, it was 29. So I put a hose, discharge hose, on the filter dryer, and some Freon came out. And now it's been running since this morning. It's now been running for about 6 more hours. It's still down to about 29 inches in the vacuum, but I still hear gurgling sounds in the evaporator. It's the weirdest thing. So I don't know if that noise is coming from the compressor. We're going to pull a vacuum on the system just to double check. Okay, so this vacuum pump's been on for a while. Both high side, low side are down. This gauge is actually a little tiny bit below 30, which we know is not possible, but shut this off. Now we know the system's empty. So my next thing is I'm just going to weigh 1.96 ounces of gas in there and give it a shot. And if that doesn't work, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because like I say, I still hear the gurgling noise inside, even though we got some more refrigerant out. So I'm thinking maybe it might be oil. I'm not sure. Or there could have been moisture in the system if it had a leak. I'm not sure. But we'll charge it up and we'll see where we get. Okay, this is what we got. Let's turn this off. Turn it back on and zero it out. 20.7 ounces. You can see down here it says ounces and this is grams. So we have 20.7. And we want to put 2 ounces in there, basically 2 ounces. Okay, I just purged whatever air was in there out. The valve is open. I'm going to shut it off again. Let it balance out. .6 ounces. Oop, I just heard it go in. I heard something. Okay, this is where we want to be. 18.64. It was 20.6, subtract 1.96, we came out to 18.64. That's what we're going to shoot for. Open this up. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to close this off. I'm going to remove this. First, I'm going to take this, put it upright. Liquid is pretty cold. All right, put that there, shut it off. And then loosen this. Here it goes. Still Freon in here. I'm sorry, refrigerant. It's not Freon anymore. It's butane. All right. Here comes the big test. Are we going to get this thing to work or what? Okay, pressure's on. I heard a whoosh sound. Let's see what happens. Let it run. Okay, just a word of caution here. I started putting this back together. When if you ever have to run in one of these jobs, put a piece of tape, mark it top outside, because I wound up putting this on backwards and I fiddled and fuddled with it until I figured that out. So that was my mistake, be your gain. Now I'm going to put the shelves in. I did run it a little while before and I felt it was really cold in here, so it might be working. So now I'm going to put the fan unit on, put the shelves back in, and see if this thing's going to work. Okay, it's all back together. One thing I want to point out, if you ever work on one of these, always put this fan cover on first before you put the back wall on. Okay, so you know that. And we're going to turn it on. We're going to let it run overnight. We're going to come back in the morning and we're going to see where we're at. And probably close off this video now. I still have one more thing to do. I'm going to order a 1/4" T access port for here so I could take that line tap valve off. And then we have a low side and a high side access. Okay, so this machine has been running now for about an hour and it's 52 degrees. It's come down quite well. I believe we got it, but we're still going to let it run overnight to make sure it shuts off. But anyway, that's a Vinotemp. Reach out to me if you have any questions. We'll see you on the next one. Okay, here's an update on this Vinotemp wine cooler. This is the service manual that the customer downloaded from the Vinotemp people. It's in Chinese. It does have English translations, but the way the Chinese, their syntax is different than ours, so it's really hard to understand. And the pictures in here are not really that clear. So there is a mention in the back when it's talking about refrigerant recharging that there could be oil or moisture in the system. So in the long run, I think that it didn't have a leak. I think it just had a restriction. Maybe it was clogged with oil, or maybe some moisture in there. Changing the dryer and weighing in the gas seemed to do the trick. But this is all new to me. This is a new technology now, R600A and 280 propane. If you're not certified, you should get certified. It's just I got certified online. It was just 50 question test. It's pretty simple because this is the future, propane and butane. And also one other thing is, normally these things run in the vacuum. So I was kind of fooled the first time I checked it, because when I checked it, it was in a vacuum. I was thinking it had a leak, but they run in the vacuum. So that's it for now. If you have any questions, any comments, any advice, drop me a line. And I hope this video was helpful to you. We learn as we go. See you next time.